Hey guys, welcome back. Today I want to talk about self-discipline. Why is it important, and how can we begin to develop a little bit more self-discipline through a couple of mindsets? First off, I want to thank MGM Winner. It was actually his idea that I talk about this subject. He mentioned in my last video that he would like to hear my thoughts on self-discipline, so I figured that it would be a great time to do so now. So for the purpose of this video, let's think of self-discipline as basically doing the things that must be done in order to achieve a specific goal or to achieve a certain purpose, right? So I do say to achieve a certain goal as if there is an end goal, and there could be an end goal, but sometimes having self-discipline goes a little bit far beyond that, right? For example, let's say that you are trying to get in shape. You have to have discipline to get to that point where you are where you want to be, right? The right amount of perhaps body fat or the right amount of muscle, a certain weight, and once you reach that point, you still want to stay disciplined in order to maintain it, right? So there are different levels of having discipline and different reasons why it's not just something that you use temporarily, and it could be depending on what it is. It's something that you will begin to, that you will want to use more often, and you will find that throughout your exercising of self-discipline, things will become better. You will always find yourself progressing in life. So I think in order to establish the core foundation of self-discipline, we have to really ask ourselves why it's important that we have self-discipline, right? And I say this because oftentimes we hear other people telling us this, right? You tell someone that you're trying to achieve a certain goal and they'll tell you, yeah, you need to be more disciplined. You may push that off and say, yeah, I know. But really, why are they telling you this? Why is it important that you have self-discipline? So for example, let's just say, as I said before, that you are trying to get in shape. You are trying to lose some weight. Well, why is self-discipline important in this process? Likely, if you don't have self-discipline in what you're eating in your diet, if you don't have discipline to get out and exercise and do those things that can progress you towards that goal, then it won't happen, right? If you want to excel in your career, if you want to perhaps get a promotion on your job, right? Why is it important to have self-discipline? Self-discipline when it comes to studying, when it comes to learning more, when it comes to developing more skills, well, that is going to be the only way that you're going to progress. Now, I say the only way, but there are other ways. But if you really want to give yourself a higher chance of getting there, then you have to be disciplined enough to put in the effort, right? You have to be disciplined enough to do what you have to do in order to progress, to study, to continue to develop your skills, to reach out to other people who have those skills and try to learn from them. You have to be active on that process. Now, I think there are several barriers to self-discipline, several barriers that kind of make that process difficult, right? And it could be procrastination. If you put off the things that you have to do, then there's a likely chance that you won't do it. If you put off that run that you need to do during that day, then there's a good chance that you won't do it. The later it gets in hours, you're going to get more tired, right? It could be being lazy, and that's the thing. And I don't want to offend anyone, but being lazy is one of the barriers to having self-discipline, right? If you don't do those things, if you're constantly saying that you're tired, you don't have enough time, or these sorts of things, then you are not going to do what's going to help you progress towards whatever goal that you have. Perhaps a lack of energy, right? One of the things about self-discipline is it helps you develop habits. It helps you develop beneficial habits. Now, in the case of getting in shape, well, the more you run, this is one of the things that I found, right? Now, when I look back over several years of my life, perhaps over the past 3 years, back then I remember getting home after work and I'd say that I was tired, right? But what was I doing? I turn on the TV, turn on YouTube, start watching a lot of videos, and start drinking a couple bottles of beer. And I always tell people, hey, I'm tired. I don't want to do this or whatever. Well, why am I tired? Because I am putting myself in that low energy state, right? Now, one of the things that I found is when I started running, when I started being a little bit more active, I had more energy in the evening. And that's one of the things that may seem counterintuitive, but when I started running, when I started working out in the evenings, I got more energy to do things that I needed to do. I got more energy to study, to work on things that I needed to work on. That's just energy that carried me out throughout the night. There's extra, 4 or 5 hours of extra energy that I got from doing those things, getting out and being physical. So in order to get out of this low energy state, you actually have to get out there and start doing things, right? So in the case of getting in shape, you just got to start doing it. And then as you start doing it, you'll develop more energy to continue doing it. Now, I want to talk about 2 ways of perhaps mentally developing your self-discipline, getting a little bit better at having self-discipline. And that is through positive and negative reinforcement. Now, one of the things that I have found to be very beneficial when it comes to having self-discipline is basically envisioning where I'm going to be if I do have it, right? Envisioning where I'm going to be at the end goal. And I said this before about having an end goal, but this doesn't mean that I don't want to continue to have discipline after reaching a certain objective, right? Just perhaps it's reaching a certain milestone or a certain checkpoint in an overall bigger objective. So that's one of the things I like to think about. Like, for example, when I work out, I think about the end goal. I think about how I'm going to look perhaps a couple months from now if I continue to do this thing, if I continue to work out, if I continue to eat healthily, these things. I think about what the end product is going to be, and I get motivated by that, right? Sometimes you just have to do that to boost yourself, to boost your motivation. You just have to think about and envision what the possible outcome could be of having self-discipline. And that is one of the things. We don't know how long it's going to take to achieve a certain objective or get to a certain milestone, but you have to really think about that, hey, you're going to be a lot further along if you continue to do what you have to do, if you continue to do what is in service of whatever goal that you have, right? If you continue to progress, that is the major thing. Self-discipline allows you to make progress towards a goal. And again, we don't know when you will hit that goal or when you will achieve it, but you will be a lot further along if you have self-discipline. If you exercise self-discipline, you'll be a lot further along from where you are today than where you'll be in a couple months from now. You'll be a lot further ahead if you exercise self-discipline. So you got to really sometimes pump yourself up and think about what that end goal is. When I think about sometimes when I get home from work and I want to continue working on other things, I want to continue to reading to expand my knowledge. A lot of times I don't want to always do that, right? A lot of times I'm tired, I'm worn out. Maybe I'm pissed out from something that happened on my job. I'm frustrated from what this day has been, but as time's gone on, I've gotten a little bit better at turning that switch off and then thinking about the possible outcome of staying disciplined and just continue to push even when I don't feel like it. And this does not mean to beat yourself up, right? Sure, you got to get your sleep. You got to do all these things that are beneficial to you. Sleep is very important. It's something that I've come to realize myself throughout having periods of not much sleep. But sure, you have to do that, but at the same time, you have to continue to do the other things that can help you to get towards your goals, right? If it's an important goal to you, then you have to do those things weekly, daily, that can help you progress, to help you get there, right? So again, this is what I think about. I think about the possible outcome of my continuous effort in doing these things that I have to do, right? I think about where I could be perhaps a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, that where I can be, and that helps me continue to stay disciplined on doing what I am doing, right? Because again, I don't know how long it's going to take me to reach my vision, but I know that I'll be a lot further or a lot closer to it if I continue to grind and continue to push each and every day and do something that's can progress me closer and closer to that objective. Now, on the other side of that positive reinforcement, you have the negative reinforcement. Now, I talk all the time about finding the positives and the negatives, and this just so happens to be another case in which you can do that. It's just slightly a little bit different, right? So, as I said before, you want to think about the positive result of your self-discipline, right? But with the negative reinforcement, you want to think about where you're going to be if you don't stay self-disciplined, right? If you don't do those things that can help you progress towards your objectives, your goals. Again, going back to that example of getting in shape. If you don't run, if you don't eat healthily, what's going to happen, right? You're not going to get any closer to where you want to be. A year from now, you're going to be either in the same state. You're going to either be in the same state, or you're going to perhaps even be worse, right? You're probably going to put on more weight. You're probably going to be a little bit more unhealthy. If you continue to eat unhealthily, you're going to cause more damage to your health, things that can trickle down in your life and create more problems later. A couple months ago, I had a little bit of this negative reinforcement through basically being told that I could become a diabetic. So I had a checkup. I got some blood work done, and they came back with the results and basically told me that if you don't start eating better, you are going to become a diabetic, right? Now, this was a little bit of a shocker to me because for many years of my life, I used to pride myself on telling people that, hey, I can eat whatever I want and I won't put on weight, right? I still look the same, or I even struggled to gain weight when I was trying to gain weight, so I could eat anything. Now, of course, if I had looked a little bit more into the results that can happen from this, maybe I wouldn't have had this mindset. But I never thought about what I was eating. I basically ate what I want. And again, what was going to happen if I continued to do this? Well, I could reach a point in which I became a diabetic and create more health problems and things I had to be a little bit more conscious about, things that are going to consume more of my effort, right? Consume more of my energy. I had to go get more checkups, perhaps take medication and on all these things, right? So it was great that I was warned at that period in time, the result of what could happen if I didn't have some discipline of, monitoring what I ate, right? Up until that point in time, I had been eating candies, drinking lots of energy drinks and all these things on a daily basis. And people were telling me, you got to stop doing this, man. I did not listen. I continued to do that. But then hearing what could happen if I continued to do that, by a doctor, well, then that switch flipped. And since that period, I have not had a single energy drink. And I probably purchased one thing of candy or so ever since over the past, almost 4 months. It's been 4 months. So again, you gotta think about what negative can result from not having that self-discipline, right? Again, if you're trying to progress in your career, you want to make more income. If you don't put in the effort to study, to perhaps study, get another degree, or to further develop your skills, if you don't put in that effort to do that, then you will stay in the same position that you are in right now, or you're going to make it much more difficult to ever reach a different state, right? So you gotta really start thinking about that, both the positives and the negatives, and think about what's going to happen a couple years from now if you do what you're doing right now, right? And think about what can happen if you put a little bit more self-discipline in it, right? Start doing those healthy habits. Start doing those things that can benefit you into getting where you're trying to go. And those things will oftentimes push you to continue doing what you're doing. Now, I do want to say self-discipline does not mean self-abuse. And that's probably something that, you probably heard from someone before. When it comes to your diet, eating healthy is not self-abuse. You can still eat things that taste good, that are good for you. And, if you're giving up something that is slightly bad for you, that you shouldn't eat that often, it doesn't mean that you can't eat it. It just means that, hey, you eat, perhaps, for example, you eat healthy for 5 days out of the week, and then eat whatever you want on other 2, right? That's a lot better than eating unhealthy for 7 days of the week, right? And you can kind of control, what that ratio is, based on what you're trying to achieve or whatever. But anyways, again, when it comes to studying, it does not mean that you can't have fun and enjoy yourself after you get off work or during your weekends. It just means that you set aside a block of your time in which you can do something that's going to help you progress towards your goal, or perhaps, advancing in your career, right? Or changing your career. It just means that goal is very important to you, and it's important enough that you are willing to make the sacrifices, during the time period that you need to make those sacrifices. And here's the thing. If you make those sacrifices, if you're willing to make those sacrifices and to stay disciplined, then, there's going to be a point in which you reach whatever objective that you reach, right? If it's an advancement in your career and you're making a lot more money, then, when you reach that period, right, you may not have to sacrifice as much anymore. Actually, you may bring more time back to yourself in which you don't have to study in your evenings. Maybe you start your own thing and, you have a lot more time. You brought in a lot more time to yourself, right? It just comes down to sometimes you just have to make that temporary sacrifice and, in order to reach something that's important to you, and that whatever that is that's important to you, perhaps it can completely change your life and make everything that came before, it can pale in comparison to that. Now, I wanted to talk about one more thing, and that is that being disciplined, it basically allows you to develop healthy habits. As I said before, when it comes to getting in shape, when it comes to eating healthy, right? If you continue to do those things, I would just want to say, for example, right? I've been doing this myself, and it has become a lot easier to do that, right? Sometimes when those cravings pop up, I am able to easily push them off, right? And I think about candy sometimes after I'm getting off of work and I'm driving by, convenience stores, and I think about, Sour Patch candies and all this sort of stuff. And I'm able to flip that switch instantly and say, no, I'm not going to do that, right? And as I continue to come home, as I continue to work out, exercise, eat healthy, I'm looking in the mirror and I'm seeing the results from doing this. And not only is my health benefiting from this, but I am getting in shape, right? I'm getting in better shape, and I'm seeing things that I like, right? So there are many different benefits that can come from exercising self-discipline in this aspect and in many other aspects. And one of the things is you'll just simply develop healthy habits, right? You will get to a point where you won't want to eat unhealthily, or you will realize that if you eat something that you may have been eating before, it's going to bog you down and make you feel horrible. And I've noticed this myself, right? If I've tried to eat a burger something, in fries and all this greasy food, I feel horrible. And I can notice that difference because I was eating this way before, and I can tell that I feel horrible, right? And to me, it's important to keep myself in an energetic state, right? In a state in which I have good energy, I have good mental clarity, in which I can use that energy to work on things, do things at home, study, and to continue to use my time wisely, right? And that's the thing. So it's important that you continue to have self-discipline and realize that, through time, you will actually develop beneficial habits that will really benefit you in many different areas of your life and in all aspects of your life. So again, that's all I want to talk about, guys. Self-discipline is very important. It's not self-abuse. It is it can completely have a positive effect on your life. It can progress you from where you are now to where you're trying to go, and a lot further even than that. So I hope this video has been beneficial to you. This is one of those areas that I really was excited to talk about. An MGM winner, if you're watching this, then I thank you again for recommending this topic. And if anyone else has any topics that you would like me to cover or to talk about, then please let me know in the comments, and I will do my best to get to them. Again, I hope you guys have enjoyed, and if you have, then please subscribe so that way you can keep up with all the content and keep up with what's to come. And until next time, I'll catch you later.